Towards the end of the meeting, and from what I understand, Ms. Hoover, after we get done with the actionable items, may come as well just for the discussion portion, but we'll get all the actionable items out of the way first. If I may have to just kind of keep things moving since Mr. Harb will be leaving us here shortly, and in the interest of saving our quorum and getting through the actionable items, we'll first of all, the notice of February 7, 2018 meeting of the Collection Service Board was posted to the Collection Service Board website on January 29th, 2018. Because we are doing a teleconference, allow me to read the statement of necessity, and then we'll have to vote on that as well. According to TCA 844-108B2, if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, the governing body must file such determination of necessity, including the recitation of the facts and circumstances on which it was based, with the Office of Secretary of State no later than 2 working days after the meeting. Furthermore, TCA 844-108A3 defines necessities as matters to be considered by the governing body at the meeting require timely action by that body, that physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. This is the regular scheduled meeting for the Tennessee Collection Service Board, and the purpose of today's meeting with one member attending by teleconference or 2 members attending by teleconference is to discuss the agenda as noticed on the website earlier. May I have a motion to accept that statement of necessity as stated?
So moved.
Second.
Well, pardon me. First, let me go ahead and call roll, and then we'll take another vote because we're going to have to do a voice vote as well. I apologize for the delay. Let me just go ahead and take roll then. Bart Howard, Stephen Harb,
Present.
all right. Josh Holden,
Present.
Chip Hellman, and then Angela Hoover.
Present.
Great. Now, if I can take a motion and just state your name for the motion since we're on teleconference.
Angela Hoover, so moved.
Steve Harb, so moved.
All right. Now,
Second.
I'll have to do a roll call vote then. Steve Harb, just aye or nay.
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
Angela Hoover.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, folks. If we can,
Can I ask a question?
yes, sir.
For convenience sake, Josh, are you serving as the director, and we should just trade off on, or you make the motion and I'll second for the rest of the meeting. That will make it more simple, if that's okay with you.
It's fine with me.
Fine with me.
Yes,
Right.
we're on the phone, so
All right.
thanks.
I like it. Okay. Then we'll move on to the agenda. The only change to the agenda, if I may make a recommendation, is to put the legal report in front of the director's report since it's our actionable item. So in case we lose a member, then we would have covered all of our voting items. So if we can do that, and if that's fine with everyone, if I can get a motion to accept the agenda.
I would move to accept the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Now for the roll call vote, Steve Harb,
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
Angela Hoover.
Yes.
All right, thank you. If we can, we'll move to the January minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at that, or is there any edits or amendments that they'd like to make?
Are we going to talk about the application review option 1 and option 2 from the last minutes today?
We are going to discuss that in the director's report. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. No, nothing else. The minutes look right to me.
Any other questions? If not, may we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a
I'm
second?
here.
Hello?
We're just taking a quick moment. Ms. Hoover just joined us in present. And
Okay, great.
it's been quite a morning, hasn't it? All right, so where we were with the January minutes, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, for a roll call vote, Steve Harb,
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
and Angela Hoover.
Yes.
All right. If we're going to move to the legal report then. Have any?
Take time to read it.
That's all right. Did anyone have any questions on anything in particular that they'd like to go over?
I was just on number 3. I was just amused at the reason we're sending a warning, a recommendation of a warning on number 3 not because of what caused the complaint, because they just didn't respond. I'm perfectly good with that, but I don't understand why they were saying that they wanted IRS 1099 reasons. That's really not for us to consider, I guess, but I find their request odd, and the fact that the agency didn't respond is just really strange. But I would agree with giving them a civil penalty for not responding.
Good morning. Just so I'm clear on number 3, so you're okay with the recommendation of the $250 civil penalty?
Yeah, if they'd have responded, I wouldn't have been. But they didn't respond. That should be. In one place, we charged somebody $500 for not responding, and here we're charging $250. I don't really know the difference, but the fact that they should be charged something for not responding, they need to be made aware they have to respond to us. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Other questions by the board members?
Council, just to follow up on Steve's inquiry, are we certain that in number 3, the respondent, are we certain that they got notice?
Mr. Gregory, yes. When I recall looking at just when I'm looking at the facts now, I remember a little more about the complaint itself. That someone signed for the complaint, so and that's generally all we have to go on as to whether or not they received the copy of the complaint. So yeah, there's no question there.
If there are no other questions on the legal report, I believe Dennis will read the complaint numbers into record, and we can take a vote on the adoption of the report as a whole.
All right, it's just starting to just 1 through the conclusion of the report. 2017-07-7961, 2017-04-8801, 2017-06-5751, 2017-06-3181, 2017-06-3281, 2017-06-4361, 2017-06-4571, 2017-06-4761, 2017-06-4841, 2017-06-5751, 2017-06-6741, 2017-06-7101, 2017-06-7591, 2017-06-8221, 2017-06-8661, 2017-06-8841, 2017-06-8881, 2017-06-9231, 2017-0381, 2017-07-0491, 2017-07-0521, 2017-05-8881, 2017-05-9921, and that concludes.
Other further questions? If we're fine with the recommendations as set forth by council, if we have a motion, we can move forward then with the legal report. Second.
Second.
All right. Now for a roll call vote: Steve Harb,
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
and Angela Hoover.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. What we'll do now is we'll move, just as a matter of housekeeping, another action item is just our formal process for dealing with motions. Each year we just vote on whether or not we want to use Robert's Rule of Order If that is the process for our formal hearings and for our boards that we'd like to accept. Have a motion to acknowledge Robert's Rules of Order as our procedural process. A second?
Second.
All right. Our voice roll call vote. Steve Harb,
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
Angela Hoover.
Yes.
All right. And then as far as election of officers, we did that recently, so we're good on that front. So that'll carry us through the end of the year. So now we can go ahead and jump on into the director's report. We'll start with the budget. The first page I put in there was the end of fiscal year, just to kind of give you a snapshot of our overall health, and then we can drill down to current. The first page, if you'll notice, of course, if you have any questions at the end, please feel free to bring those up. But total expenditures, if you look at grand total, is middle of that far right column. You'll see the grand total for fiscal year 16 through 17. Fiscal year 17, and that's $49,127. And then you have additional expenditures, which are the cost backs, and we've discussed some of those. Those are also in our trend analysis. And those total cost backs are $156,689, with total expenditures of $205,816. And then we have, if you go down further, you've got a net revenue of $348,790, with a fiscal year balance of $142,974 added to the prior year, which brings us a total reserve balance of $663,301. So we're doing well there. And then what you'll see on the next page is the trend analysis from which that comes from. It itemizes some of those expenses per period. So you got the big snapshot with the fiscal year, and then you've got the trend as what the trending from where that comes from. Go to the next one. Now this one is going to be the subject of a lot of our conversation when we come to the application reviews and complaints process. If you'll notice, we've been running in the red for the last 5 months. So we've got a total net deficit for this fiscal year thus far of $14,901. So obviously that raised some concerns for us. We looked into that, and what that is we're running about 3 times complaints, and so legal is we're being billed by the billable hour, and every single time that legal processes a complaint, and if we're running 3 times as many, you get the picture where the legal cost backs are quite a bit substantive from what we've compared to years prior. So that's where that is, and that's where that's coming from. So that's why we wanted to have that discussion in regards to what do we do with that? What have other programs done with that? What is our way forward in regards to that? We kind of opened up that discussion a little bit about application reviews, but those aren't the lion's weight of our time spent in our board meetings. But the complaints, let me just kind of give you a quick snapshot of what we could propose. We noticed that about 1/3 of our complaints, or at least over 1/3 of our complaints, are outside our jurisdiction. Examples of this would be disputed accounts regarding payment, sum, or terms of their contract. Basically, administrative matters between the debtor and the person that's collecting on that debt. So things that really shouldn't come to us, and by SOP, we can just dispose of those. What's happened, the reason we haven't been, once they opened up centralized complaints, we want to keep a record of all the complaints that we have. In the past, we just did those administratively. We just would not refer those on to legal. Now everything is going through the complaints process and being opened. If you recall, maybe a few meetings ago, we had this discussion some time ago before we realized that it was going to have the implications that it has now in the budget. But by SOP, since we have that option, we're just going to go ahead and continue to close those. So you won't be seeing those again on the report. There's really no action that we need to take on that. So that'll cut down about 1/3 of it right there. Now there's the withdrawals. Now that's the part that will require some action on our part. The withdrawals are folks that complain, but then in the process decide that they worked it out with the collection agency, and they no longer want to pursue their complaint. So now in those situations, we would need to, once we get communication from the complainant requesting a withdrawal in writing, So that way we're just not taking someone's word for it, but we actually have it in writing. We are requesting administrative authority from the board to close those complaints rather than wait to the next board meeting to close those. So that'll dispatch another, significant portion. I would say anywhere between 20-25% of claims. That gets us back to our, our original legal report that you're used to seeing, which is a little bit more refined down to, items that don't fit in either one of those categories. If that's something that the board would need to discuss, but when we get done with the discussion, if someone could move to allow us to do that, then we could at least clear those. And then have discussion about any more if we start to see a trending pop up. Anyone having discussion or questions that they'd like to put on the table?
All of those recommendations seem reasonable to me.
Ms. Director Kopchak, do we keep something in our file that just confirms that the individual?
And of course, I'll have to defer to legal as well and to complaints. But typically, what they do is they do keep a record of that based on the records retention, of that written withdrawal as well. And now, obviously, if that withdrawal looks like it wasn't just a clean withdrawal, then we'll dig in a little further. If it looks like it's just based on a complaint that perhaps it might be borderline out of our jurisdiction, but they've got their situation resolved under no duress, obviously, and it looks like that was just a clean withdrawal, then we'll put that on the record and save that during its regular retention process.
Do we have any problems of like people complaining over and over and over again and then withdrawing, or is it just random, or do we even know?
I haven't noticed a trend in the same complainant. I have noticed that. But to sort of speak to what Glenn was talking about as far as the retention of that, so there's a complaint file, and then of course there's the legal file. The complaint file would maintain all of the information where they filed the complaint, where they received the response, and if there was a withdrawal in writing, that would go in that complaint file, and it would never come to the legal side.
That's my question. They're giving us a written withdrawal of some kind that we can hang on to.
It would have to be written. We'd have to have a record of that with actual withdrawal and the nature of that withdrawal in that letter. Just not, I don't want to pursue it anymore. A little bit more substantive than that, so we understand that's not under duress.
Right, and I think that we've discussed we want that to come from the complainant, not necessarily a respondent saying, "Oh, we've talked to them and we worked it out," and they don't want to pursue it. We want it to come in writing from the complainant.
Steve, did you have any questions on that? Mr. Harb, did you?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I think minimizing, if somebody withdraws and we can note in the file to withdrawn, then I think it's good just to go ahead and dismiss it.
All right. If someone could so move, then that would be great.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
For the roll call vote, then. Ansel Hoover,
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
Steve Harb.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And another thing too, for just discussion down the road, if we start to get the situation where we realize we're getting a lot of this very similar type complaints coming before us, one thing that Cosmo and Barbara has done to save manpower and to save money from the legal cost back perspective is that they take offenses and they'll put them in categories. Like if this category, if this meets a certain category, then they'll just first offense, for example, category 1 is a first offense, it's a warning letter. Second offense, 250 per violation. Third offense, 500 per violation. Now, if you go to category 4 or 5, it's basically we just send them the agreed order and then we're done with it. If they agree to sign it, it's done. It's kind of like a traffic ticket. They agree to it, they sign, it's done. It doesn't go before the judge, But
that would be an agreed citation policy. So the board could decide which violations you think that we could handle without bringing them to legal and referring to the board. If there are certain violations that you think would suffice with a letter of warning, like Glenn was saying, that could be issued. Would be referred to legal and handled through the regular complaint process.
So that's another way to save money on the legal cost backs as well, and kind of expedite the process and maintain some sort of consistency. Like for example, when you get to category 4 and 5, you'll notice that they pick it up a little bit. Like first offense for category 5 is $500, second offense 1,000, and the third offense they refer to legal. And then right after that, then the category 5 is $1,000 first offense. Second offense refer to legal. There's no other. They just automatically goes to legal. So we can take, if we want to go that route, we could. That's one way to save on legal cost backs as well. So that's something the discussion for further and further board meetings. But Steve, did you have any questions on that, or what is that? Is that something that you think would be amenable, or something that we could look into further?
It makes sense to me. To minimize and streamline, as long as we have some documentation in the file of what we did on the complaint. Because my only concern there is if the complainant comes back and says we didn't take action, or we don't have some documentation that we dismissed it appropriately. But ranking the complaints like you're talking about, it's not a bad idea.
What I'll do for the members then, since since Bart wasn't here to be a part of this discussion as well, is I'll send you a copy of the cosmetology and barber examiners template that they use, so you can kind of wrap your mind around what we're talking about, and then start for the next board meeting and discussion for the next couple board meetings, we can start putting these into categories. And I think what we're going to see, if we close out those things are outside of our jurisdiction, which we're going to do immediately, and then we have the approval to close out those withdrawals that we have in writing, and now we also have a policy and guidelines for agreed citations that really, I think we're going to see a huge reduction in the legal cost back. I think it also help us stay within that 180-day metric as well, so that way we're not having meetings just for the legal report or for application reviews. So if I may, I'd like to shift to application reviews. That's the other piece that we see quite a bit as well. And Steve, if you recall, you gave us some things to kind of cogitate on, and I took that forward, and I don't have the two pass in front of me. I believe it's in the minutes though, but the whole sending that to the board members for review, that didn't seem necessary, and it didn't seem like there was much traction with that for this board. So if we can pivot to the second one, just identifying which ones the administratively we could just close, that was where I think a lot of discussion seems to be around. And one of the things you talked about is those where there's no evidence of moral turpitude, and it's not outside, and it's not in Tennessee. Like if their disclosures aren't in Tennessee, that we seem, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed that there was more of an inclination to allow administration to deal with those if the financials were, of course, in order. However, those inside Tennessee, or if there's something that smacks of moral turpitude, something fraudulent activity, financial type, illegality of some sort, or then that's different. That would automatically come before the board. But it seems oftentimes if it's not inside Tennessee, and it's not an issue of moral turpitude, about 9 times out of 10, we typically just approve those. And so we would just continue in that vein, except for it become administrative action if the board so wanted to grant that authority to administration to do that. Of course, it would be under those guidelines. No moral turpitude, with some clarifiers as to what that would entail. And then also, if it's outside of Tennessee as well, that would be under the purview. No moral turpitude and outside of Tennessee. But if it's inside Tennessee, there may be evidence of moral turpitude. That would be, of course, we continue to bring those before the board. And of course, I welcome any discussion further on that as well.
Steve, if you're saying if it's outside Tennessee and it shows moral turpitude, we would still flag it. If moral turpitude in Tennessee, we'd flag it twice, I guess. But,
moral turpitude, period.
But they have to disclose the nature of the suit, FDCPA suit or that kind of thing. So if they don't disclose the nature of the suit, would we automatically go back and ask them to identify it? Or is that part of our application form?
Our auditors. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah, where they identify the nature of any suit that's open.
That'll typically happen in the initial audit. We try to drill down and get it then. But again, it is disclosures, so that's a good point. I mean, unless we, find it based on our efforts, Oftentimes we do depend on those disclosures. Now, once we have those disclosures in an initial audit, we come across some items, then we continue those on until we have some sense of what those include and entail. But until then, primarily we depend on those disclosures.
If it's a filed case in Tennessee, can't we look it up?
Yes.
We can.
Okay. I'm good with that approach. I apologize for not being there. I can't see what you all are talking about, but I'm good with streamlining the administrative process.
Other members like to add anything to that as well?
Question. If an application is approved, do we do any follow-up on the disposition of the civil litigation to find out what happened?
The answer was no on that
The
one.
answer is no on that. I think at this point, the only thing they would have to disclose if it was something that came up at their renewal that they needed to disclose at that time. But in the interim, in the time between when they're approved and when they're renewed, I don't believe that there's a requirement for them to.
Is that an applicant is never going to indicate that there's moral turpitude involved. They're always going to, well, there's civil litigation pending, but didn't do anything wrong. I don't think they're ever going to make that disclosure.
We will push back on that a little bit. Aisha's really good in that regard. She will ask the nature of that. But again, if it's outside the state, then we are depending on, as you stated, their further disclosure.
But we have, talked about this in the past and sent several things back to them and kind of made their life a little bit miserable until they told us about it. So
Well, I have no doubt that we dig in and get enough information to.
As far as do we want to take action on this today, or do you want to table it for another day, or?
why wouldn't we take action today?
Okay.
Just because people aren't here?
No, it's there's no reason. We have quorum, and so that would be fine.
So let's do it today.
Okay. Do we have a motion to that regard then?
So moved.
Got a second?
Second.
And again, just to re-clarify, the motion was where there's evidence of moral turpitude or disclosures with suits inside Tennessee, those will continue to come before the board. And then anything outside of that, then we'll go ahead and approve that if their financials are in order. I just want to make sure we clarify, and everyone, we already knew that, but just for the record, to put that on as well. If we can, we'll just do a roll call then. Angela Hoover,
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
and Steve Harb.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we've pretty much we've covered some ground today. I do have some information as in regards to the discussion that Bart wanted to have in regards to raising the bond limit as a possibility. I'll just kind of give you the short of the longs, and then we'll discuss it in more detail when Bart's here. But I basically, the discussion was several meetings ago was the potential of raising the bond limit to kind of shore up any potential of commingling of assets that, or I think encumbered assets when someone's reporting their financials. Obviously, companies can be somewhat complex, and we try to sort through that to make sure there is a true positive net worth. But at the same time, too, that's why we have a bond limit, and so that's ascribed on a scale according to size of the company. But just to kind of report where we're at, I did look at some of the surrounding states, and Alabama has no bond. Arkansas has a proof of a surety bond, and theirs is basically very similar to ours. Their scale was pretty close. I think they were 5,000 less when it comes to 1 to 4 employees, but they're the same as 5 to 9, and so forth. Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, They didn't have a bond. North Carolina had a $10,000 to $30,000 bond based on that scale as well, and then Virginia was $5,000. So, quite honestly, we're on par with the states around us. Obviously, it would be within your purview to continue to have that discussion, but one, just at least make that information available to you as we continue to consider. And we'll pick up the conversation again when Bart is able to participate with us. Today he's representing the board for the sunset hearing. He was here for the board meeting, but got pulled away to do that as well. So, but he'll be with us at the next meeting, and then we can continue to have that conversation. Was there anything else that someone would like to discuss or bring up, other than, because that's all we had? Steve, did you have anything?
Nope. I'm good.
Well, if we can have a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
if we can have a second.
Second.
All right, and then we'll just do a roll call vote then. Angela Hoover,
Yes.
Josh Holden,
Yes.
Steve Harb.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Y'all take care.
You too. Thanks, Steve.